Got quite a few folks on today. To keep ticking up towards 100, I'm sure we'll surpass that today. Glad to have everybody here for our meeting today, October 19th, 2020, our meeting of the GAC, Government Affairs Committee of the Birmingham Business Alliance. I'm Kelvin Datcher. Honored to serve as your chairperson this year. We are honored to have as our guest today, Mayor Woodfin, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But during the conversation, we did receive a few questions beforehand for the mayor, but if there are questions that you have for him as he speaks or as that you just kind of pop up in your mind, please send those to me directly on chat. So we'll try to get to those, as many of those as possible. And even though I'm not, he and I are both at City Hall, we're on kind of different ends of the floor right now. But we're excited to have him here. As always, this meeting will be recorded and will be available on the BBA website for you to review, and please share with friends as we continue to bring people to our new reality of our virtual BBA meetings. Of course, we look forward to getting back to our in-person meetings as soon as possible, where we have Daryl Perkins is in charge of cooking on a Sunday night and heating up our lunch on a Monday morning to make sure it is the very best cuisine that he offers all the time. But right now, it's kind of my honor and my pleasure, my privilege to introduce our speaker for today. I've known him for a while, so he is my friend. He is someone I respect and admire, separate from his role, which I think is the premium part of leadership, is that people are not defined by their position. Still, he has continued to amaze me and others around him, those closest to him, for his servant leadership in his role as mayor of the city of Birmingham. I have the official bio, I have his official intro, but it's much better to just welcome someone that I have tremendous respect for, and I'm glad to be a resident of the city of Birmingham, and I'm glad that my family is part of the city of Birmingham under the leadership of our speaker today, the Honorable Mayor of Birmingham, Alabama, Randall Lee Woodfin. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Kelvin, thank you for that introduction. And you know, what's interesting about this moment that we're in right now is that I think by definition, this is a luncheon. So Kelvin, you'll have to let me know if you actually see somebody actually eating. If we were in person, I would be doing all the talking. You all would be eating while I was talking. But I think y'all just gotta let me know. So on a good note, I hope everyone did enjoy your weekend. And let me tell you, I've been to these in the past, so this is not, the most formal thing. I'm not going to sit here and give you all a speech. I just want to talk to you briefly, and I want to again reserve majority of our time for any questions you all have, and we can get into much dialogue you all want or take a deeper dive based on the questions you have. But truthfully, to everyone on this call, I am honored to be able to share a few moments with you today during this luncheon. Of course, it would only be right to begin by two thank yous. Well, actually three. First is the BBA leadership. That's our CEO, Kenny Coleman. Just thank you so much for being with us and charting a new course for us. The second is to the Chair of Governmental Affairs Committee. That's Greg. Greg, you have been a godsend as well. Thank you for your calm and steady leadership. And of course, Kelvin for leading us today. Listen, everybody, obviously, by the nature of this virtual luncheon, you know that 2020 has presented us with many new and unforeseen circumstances. I mean, things that we couldn't imagine. 2017, I couldn't have not imagined when I was sworn in that we would be dealing with a recession and a global pandemic at the exact same time. I couldn't imagine that we would have thrown in civil unrest as well. Beauty of Birmingham in our history, though, is that we've not only been forced to adapt, we're good at adapting as a community and as a city. I don't have to remind you of that history. We're known worldwide for turning our struggles of adversity, that is, into one of promise and opportunity. So I say all that to say that as we have entered the start of the fourth quarter of 2020, but close to a year out, the coronavirus is still real. I want you all to be careful, but at the same time, I know we will see the light. We will get around this curve of this global pandemic we're in, and things will be better for our community. Truthfully, I would not say that if I did not believe that. So I hope throughout all of the struggle that's been presented to you in 2020, you're still encouraged and know that things will get better. Again, as stated earlier, I want to just outline some of the things and key areas we've been focused on. So here's what I'll say. Government, and the way I see government, is a three-legged stand. In order for any community to succeed, and you all don't take my word for it, study other communities. And when you look at and see their success, you know that the combination of public-private partnership is what changes any community. It accelerates growth. It's the engine, it's the fuel, it's everything you need for a community to change for the better. That being said, when things are good, government alone cannot do it, but it sure can't do it. Progress, that is. Government cannot make progress in a crisis without those in the private sector, without those in the nonprofit sector, without those in our faith community and other sectors in this community. So 2020 has if it's shown us anything, is that when we come together, even in the hardest of times, things can be solved. I could argue that BBA, our relationship with BBA, our relationship with our corporate partners and other government entities has never been more important. And so when I think about what it is, what's City of Birmingham's role, it's quite simple. Our focus has been on an equitable economic recovery. This recovery puts Birmingham on a long-term trajectory, we believe, for economic competitiveness. And that's what it really boils down to. As a mid-sized city, that's not something we should run away from. We should not only run towards our strengths, but we should find the balance of making sure those who live here have opportunity, but create such an atmosphere where those who live other places want to choose Birmingham. That's all of our goals. I know that's something Kenny and I share. And we've done that in partnership with leaders on this call. And we need all of you all to make it move forward. So what I'll do is spend the rest of my time talking about three main things, y'all. I think if I got it in any order, it is Birmingham Promise, it's Birmingham Strong, and it's the Vital program. I'll start with Birmingham Promise. As you know, when we consider vision, when we consider direction, when we consider how to move Birmingham forward, it is incumbent upon all the adults on this call to do what is necessary to make every single investment in our youngest generation. Because before you can talk about how do we recruit folk from outside of our community to come here, the first question is, what are you doing for the people that already live here? Enter the Birmingham Promise, where you know for every student that walks across the stage of Birmingham 7 high schools, we want to provide opportunity at a 2-year, 4-year college or university. Enter the apprenticeship side of this, where for every child that has a dream as a junior or senior in high school can be exposed to making that dream become some form of a reality. That being said, many of you all, and this is a thank you, many of you all had participated in the apprenticeship side of this program. And then we hit a wall due to the coronavirus. You had to suspend your employees from working in office, which meant that we couldn't go forward with the apprenticeship program. So even during that setback because of COVID, I am still happy to say that 500 plus students are on Promise scholarships right now throughout our state for our 2-year, 4-year public colleges and universities. It is because of people like you all on this call. And so I thank those who have already been participating. I do want to send a challenge directly to you, for those who know about this program, but have not participated on the apprenticeship side of this or on the scholarship side of this. This is helpful to you, not just because of the investments you're making in young people, but I see it as a full circle. Many of you all talk to me, you talk to Kelvin, you talk to Greg, you talk to so many other leaders in this community, and you share with us. You speak to us, you're concerned about your workforce gaps. Consider the Birmingham Promise as full circle. You're not just investing in young people's opportunity to go to college. You're not just exposing them to your workforce as young people, 16 and 17 years of age, but that young worker you're looking for when they graduate from school, or that young worker you need who doesn't need a college degree. This investment works for your bottom line as well. So please consider that as a thought in supporting the Birmingham Promise. Second thought I'll speak to is the Birmingham Strong. I will tell you, Josh and I had our initial worry, and it is still our worry today, is that we don't want people to die on our watch from the coronavirus. This virus, we know we can't control it, but there are certain measures you can put in place. So some of the initial measures we took in March and April were designed to protect lives. It was designed to make sure there wasn't a run on our hospital, and it was designed to make sure we did everything we can for people to be able to survive in our community during a global pandemic. But that caused such a ripple, and not necessarily in the best way, like many other cities in the United States. Our economy took a hit, and we initially thought about the small business owner, and then that concern equally shifted to the hourly worker that was furloughed or the hourly worker that was unemployed. So we struck a balance, two-part strategy that is. First, we tackled the small businesses who were hurting, who were cash strapped, and probably had anywhere from 10 max 14 days of cash on hand. We put 1.2 million, we as in the city of Birmingham, put 1.2 million towards a loan program. We were happy to say that loan program was matched, and an additional 1.3 million was raised from the private sector. Again, some of you all on this call, to make loans to small businesses and stabilize hundreds of jobs. Now think about this. I don't know if you all know the number. Separate from the federal CARES funding, what we did locally was save over 90 businesses. We invested in over 90 businesses, and we kept over 90 businesses from shutting their doors. That is extremely helpful. But still, many businesses were forced to close. We're not naive. We're not going to paint the rosiest picture. I mean, this was bad. Nearly 18%, if I am correct, nearly 18% of Jefferson County workforce filed for unemployment. That is not a small number. So when considering and thinking about those unemployed workers or those workers that were furloughed, the second part of that strategy under the BHAM Strong is how do we dig deep? How do we get creative and innovative around putting people back to work? Queue up the service corps. This allowed us to aim directly at those unemployed workers, which said, listen, let's help them develop skills that could prepare them for new careers, but at the same time, strike the balance in aiding the community needs related to the coronavirus. And again, it has been a very great program. I received an email from Michael Goodrich today, who shared an email that he got information that our Birmingham Strong program made its way all the way to Bloomberg, who has shared it nationwide now. And so this program is scalable for other cities to do as well. The third thing I will talk about with you all is vital. First, I want to say thank you. That thank you is to the 13 area businesses who have voluntarily agreed to work with the city of Birmingham to leverage procurement. And this leveraging of procurement is a way of us investing in men and women, minority-owned businesses, the disadvantaged businesses. The play here is that we have to find ways to invest in the long run of our economy. We cannot look at our economy in the short run. We have to think globally, and we have to think long term. Many of you all, and I've shared this with some folk on this call last week, we talked about Vital. We talked about dear Mr. CEO, dear Mrs. CEO, Mr. President and Mrs. President, Mr. and Mrs. Chairman. What's important to you? What do you care about? How do you want to see your company move forward? And then you tell me what you value. My response is very simple. we value the same things, and it's important. City of Birmingham, private sector, corporate Birmingham, CEO, community, we have to measure what we say we value. We have to measure what we value. That being the case, Vital puts us on the course to not only say this is what we're committed to, but create a baseline and expose ourselves, and then set ourselves on a course of corrective behavior to make sure we are extremely intentional about leveraging procurement so we can invest in men and women and disadvantaged businesses. We have to do that. We cannot give lip service to that. It can't just be a feel-good moment. It can't just be exposed based on what happened in Minneapolis, a conversation with the unfortunate death of George Floyd. We know a lot of conversations made its way to the boardroom, the C-suite, all the way down to the ground level between Black and white employees. Vital seeks to take this from conversation and make something tangible that works for everyone in our community. So I began my administration saying that the hallmark of our leadership would be public-private partnerships. And those public-private partnerships, without a doubt, have to be built on trust. But as I stated earlier, I could not have imagined, y'all, I could not have imagined in 2017 that we would meet a pandemic and a recession. And so consider everything I've shared with you all this afternoon for this luncheon that I don't see people eating. It's paramount that we execute on this strategy to make everything better for our community. With that said, I think, Kelvin, I'll turn it back over to you, man. And we have ample time to answer any questions everyone has.
I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor. We have several already, and some are coming through in the chat box. Y'all just send them directly to me as a private message on the chat, and we'll get them to the mayor. Before we go do questions, Mr. Mayor, let's talk about a couple of things that are in the news. Last week, big announcement, NCAA basketball, men's and women's coming to Birmingham.
Yeah, so that's a big deal. I got a couple of people on this call. I saw John Earls earlier. Birmingham Visitors Convention Bureau. I'm butchering that name. Don't beat me up, John. The point is this. We talk about partnerships. That was a partnership. City of Birmingham, Tad Snyder, BJCC, John Earls and the Visitors Bureau, and the SEC and all these other folk coming together. When we think about our city, for so long, we've had to watch other southern cities host the NCAA because we stopped or refused to make the right investments in our city's infrastructure. When you think about what you see in Arlington, Texas, related to the sports complex they've created, when you consider Atlanta and Memphis and other cities that they are intentional about the investments in sports and entertainment, without a doubt, it was time for the city of Birmingham to do the same thing if we said we wanted to not only be a premier city, but also compete in that space. We believe the investments in the BJCC, the investments in the new stadium, et cetera, is allowing us to compete, and our future is bright, and see the NCAA in 2023 as well as 2025. We are back in the game. It feels good. But the folk on this call are the people that deserve kudos because this was a team effort.
One of the things, Mr. Mayor, that was important to you, you talk about food and drink kind of as the core of the redevelopment of the city and the rebirth of the city. One of the things that you really tasked all of us on, and I'm going to scratch my head because you had us working hard on creating ways to, like the Eat in the Streets program, the shared space permits. Talk about how you wanted to support these small businesses that really are the heartbeat of our city.
Yeah, so of course you all know that in my left hand, the city of Birmingham is heavily dependent on sales taxes. A lot of that is rooted in the foundation of that in small businesses. Small businesses thrive here in our city. That's pre-COVID, and we had to find ways during COVID to be creative. The other thing that Kelvin has heard me say, and maybe some of you all have heard me say, there's a poet artist I like. His name is Lupe Fiasco. And I think the name of his first album was titled Food and Liquor. And you consider City of Birmingham has 26 commercial corridors, 26 small business districts. The ones that have had a rebirth are all centered technically around food and liquor. I know I'm being funny, but it is the support of small business. When you consider what's happening in Avondale, when you consider what's happening in Lakeview, when you consider what's happening in the 2nd Avenue downtown corridor, when you consider what's happening in many other areas, it's literally centered around this concept of food and liquor, but it's mainly supporting small businesses that offer quality of life options for our residents and for our guests who come to our city. That being the case, I'm going to go backwards for a minute. Josh and I made an economic development and a workforce development tour back in Germany in 2018. We had Councilor John Hillary with us, and we were in Bremen, Dusseldorf, and Stuttgart, Germany. And everywhere we went, this is what we realized. Matter of fact, believe it or not, the timing of this is perfect because it was October 2018. Everywhere we went, everyone was eating outside. And so the thought started 2 years ago about how do you create an opportunity to more support our small businesses for people to expand their opportunity beyond inside their place. Can they expand it to the sidewalk? Can they actually expand it to the street? Can the city of Birmingham block off streets? Can we partner with the ABC board to give exceptions? Can we go outside of some of the rules that exist in the state related to eating and drinking in the streets? Cue COVID-19. It now says we got to be creative. Small businesses were closed, then they were open, but in opening they can only seat 50% of their capacity. You add on top of that some of the fear of people eating inside. We had to find ways for people to still come to the restaurant but feel safe, and the small business win. That's how we came over eating the streets. Long answer, but it's one of the things that's been extremely important to us.
Another recent announcement was the redevelopment of in downtown Inslee starting with the Rance McCormick building. You want to share a few minutes about that? Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, here's a short thought. Again, I told you all and I expressed to you a minute ago, we have 26 small commercial business districts that exist in the city of Birmingham. Downtown Inslee Business District is the #1 priority. The city of Birmingham had 3 unique assets in the middle of this business district. We had an empty lot, an old building that was not of use. It used to be the West Precinct headquarters. And then we had the McCormick building, a 10-story building that has been empty for over 35 years. We believe by making the necessary investments in the McCormick building as a beacon and tower for that downtown business district, it would accelerate growth for the remaining corridor and business district of Inslee. And it took us a while, but we're finally here. We'll be actually demo on that building will start, I want to say, within the next 3 weeks or less. And a new tower will be placed in the same spot.
What does that mean in terms of impacting small business opportunities outside of the city core, Mr. Mayor?
Well, it's actually quite simple. I think for us, when you consider what's happening, Birmingham is fortunate to be like many other cities across the nation. We are seeing continued growth in our city centers. People not only want to live downtown, they want to play, and eat, and shop and drink downtown as well. And so it's not just what's happening with our commuter residents who work in our city center 9 to 5, but the city center is coming alive post 5 p.m. where people are walking and biking and eating and doing everything else they can. That trend exists across many cities in the nation. I'm happy to see Birmingham be a part of that. But our vision for Birmingham has always been clear, which is, well, a portion of that is, city of Birmingham, we do not define ourselves based on the growth of downtown only. we define ourselves based on the quality of life of the quality of life of the lowest neighborhood. Lowest being that it has been disinvested in, where people don't shop anymore, eat anymore, live anymore. There are no businesses there. So we look to that commercial business district outside of the city center and say, what investments can we make here that brings vitality back to this area? So for us, it means everything. It means as much as any downtown project would be, if not more.
One of the questions we received, Mr. Mayor, is about regional cooperation. Can you talk a little bit about that and the successes that we've already had as a larger community?
Yeah, so if I am correct, I'm not sure if Chris Nana is on this call, but if my history is correct, Jefferson County, seat city being Birmingham, it's in the top 3 most balkanized counties in the nation. Now, listen, there are a lot of counties in the nation. Alabama has 67 of them, and we're on the smaller end. What that means is this, though. Within our county, there are over 30 municipalities. There are over 13 school systems. And we just got this broken system here where people have carved out their little fiefdom, and mayors have not been working together. Mayors haven't been working with the county commission. I came in office and I believe in team. I believe in team. Many people at this point would probably interject a sports analogy, but I like to interject a music analogy. I was a drummer. I played the drums as a child and kid, and understood the concept of one sound, one band, or one band, one sound. That being the case, Jefferson County, for all of our differences, if we want to move the region forward, we need to talk to each other. We need to work with each other. We need to learn to trust each other. And we need 1 or 2 things, low-hanging fruit, where we can start building trust and put us in a position to go after bigger things that work for our region. And so what we were noticing is you have a company located in Birmingham, another city outside of Birmingham, but within Jefferson County says, hey, come here for lower taxes or better taxes or this land deal, et cetera. That company moves there, and then there's, I guess, more so like a Cold War. Because there's not really talking, and we just go snatch or steal a business from their city, and it goes back and forth. That's dumb, that's stupid, because you're not really creating new jobs for the region. You're recycling from one area to the next. And I don't even think recycling is the best word. So we came up with a no poaching agreement. And that doesn't mean a company has to stay in one area. It just simply means, as mayor, as a leader, I'm not going to go to a neighboring city and poach an existing business from their city to come to ours, because as a region, that's not how we should engage each other. When this first started with 30 plus cities, we got over 23 to sign. We now have some new mayors as recently as the August election. We have new mayors in Irondale, Center Point, et cetera. I believe these new mayors will join this effort and increase that number. And ideally, we can have all of our mayors in Jefferson County sign a no poaching agreement. Just a brief note, I see Frank Bricato's name on here.
I was gonna say it. I was gonna ask if you did.
Frank is my friend, and we have charged Frank to lead the effort to find ways to make our 911 system more efficient for a county. Because again, if any of you all know the 280 corridor, you literally overlap a gazillion cities within a short few miles. But think about if 2 people get in a car accident, your car is in Vestavia and the other person's car is in Homewood, and you both call 911, who's going to show up? That's kind of dumb to even think about, because the goal is to save lives and make sure we get emergency service to folk who need it. And so how do we work better again in our county with a more efficient 911 system?
And Mayor Ricardo was also a big supporter, wasn't he, Mr. Mayor, of the no poaching?
Absolutely.
Couple questions we received. Another one. what is Birmingham, from Steve Smith at South Point, what is Birmingham doing to bring more jobs to the city?
Great question. Birmingham was on a unique course, a positive upward trajectory pre-COVID, where we were excited about our numbers. And the truth is, I'll give you the intangible things we were doing. We were serving as a cheerleader, promoting the good things that existed here. We were partnering with folk on this call, VBA, et cetera, who were promoting opportunity that existed. I think during COVID and post-COVID, I still think there's opportunity here as a mid-sized city to market who we are. Earlier, I mentioned the term, we need to run towards our strengths. I still believe our strengths, and I've shared this with Kenny over and over. Many of you all know this too, so it may sound like a chorus to you at this, the choir to you at this point, is that we need to triple down. Notice I didn't say double down. We need to triple down on healthcare. It's still our number one industry in our community. And looking to the future where precision medicine and personalized medicine is headed, we need to jump the curve. I believe that puts us in a unique opportunity related to UAB meeting Southern Research and what opportunity exists around not just biotech, but everything related to healthcare. The second space is the gig and innovation economy. What are we doing to support that as well? Again, opportunity exists here, but the city of Birmingham, what is our role? The question was, what's the city's role to attract and bring? I believe we have to continue to make the necessary infrastructure investments, and I believe we're doing that. We know the assets already exist here. Councilor Hillary and I, he chairs Economic Development Committee. We just left Kaiser last week for about an hour and a half tour. And what was interesting about that, many of y'all may remember some of the tweets I've thrown out to BMW, some of the tweets I've thrown out to Delta. Some people saw that as gimmicky, but we believe certain things like that work because there's a bigger strategy here attached to that communication channel. Kaiser has been working with Delta, and Delta has been looking, because they're maxed out in the Atlanta market, related to not necessarily their commercial flight growth, but related to some of the things of logistics and operations. So we believe Birmingham has an opportunity. That's a deeper dive as an example on what we're doing, but the goal is this. We need to continue to run towards our strengths as a city. And then Kenny and I we don't need to be afraid for people to tell us no. Josh and I have been on many recruitment trips throughout the last 3 years. And we believe in wading through every no we can to get to a yes. When we position ourselves to go to cities like New York and go to cities like, I guess, the entire Bay Area, we put on for Birmingham, we market Birmingham, and we share our assets. And then we do the soft skill sides of this and we build the relationships. So when that company or their CEO or their startup tells us they're looking for a second place, they're looking to expand, Birmingham is in the queue and ready because we've already done the relationship side of this. And we believe that's been working for us, at least for 2.5 years of the 3 we've been here.
From Alan Engel at Crown Partners, please speak about the city's relationship with UAB and whether you see any impediments and all that opportunities from the city to UAB's continued growth.
Today, I don't see any impediments. I believe UAB is Birmingham, and I believe Birmingham is UAB. And if Ray Watts was sitting here next to me, he would literally say the same thing. He would say UAB is Birmingham, and Birmingham is UAB. We're not just talking about the biggest employer in the city and the state. We're talking about the future of Birmingham is UAB. And what are we as a city, as a community prepared to do to continue to make the necessary investments to make sure UAB is successful and continues to grow? I believe healthcare is one of those recession-proof industries that not only you talk about from an economic standpoint, but you really get down to the heart of it. You're talking about a it's a game changer as it relates to saving lives. It's a game changer as it relates to what happens to the next generation of those born, et cetera. So where UAB meets Southern research, I think it's literally sky's the limit. And what do we want to see happen here? Josh and I made a trip, I want to say back in 18. I don't think it was 19. If it was 19, it was the beginning of 19. And we met with many people in the Silicon Valley area. And there is a conversation around where will healthcare be in the future. And it's not a matter of just monetizing it, right? We know where social media went, and we saw how folk monetize social media. I don't think you can look at healthcare and look at it only from a monetization standpoint, but really a monetizing standpoint. It's really looking at what are the growth aspects of healthcare. And we really believe it's in precision medicine. So our continued conversations with Will Fernandy, our continued conversations with Ray Watts, our continued conversation with Selwyn Vickers, and our continued conversation with the Chancellor of UA Systems, as well as those down in Montgomery at the state legislator level. We really got to make investments in UAB that can continue for it to be our economic engine.
Mr. Mayor, and they were a big supporter of the Promise as well, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, for Martha Parson and Realty South, once the city shows signs of income recovery, where will those funds be focused?
Oh, the initial thing, y'all, is, of course, let me start with the problem. City of Birmingham's faced a $63 million budget shortfall. What we're doing now is looking at every single thing we can do to generate revenue. We believe some of those initial revenue that comes in, we have to get our culture assets back working and activating, delivering the services at an optimal level we would want them. That includes our library system, that includes our park and rec system, et cetera. We believe additional funds that come after that should go, again, towards neighborhood revitalization.
Brantley Fry had our next question, of course, from Senator Jones's office, who you were with earlier today. Can you talk a little bit about, give an update maybe on how the city's approaching opportunity zones, or what are some of our successes and challenges thus far?
Yeah, so I will go with the challenge first. I guess getting to a deal to get that capital off the sideline. I think the second challenge was the COVID-19 again made things hit a brick wall. We were in many talks pre-COVID around, the third and fourth and fifth deal of looking at opportunity zones and finding ways for everyone to win. The community where there's been disinvestment, and for those who had some of those capital gains to get off the sideline and for them to receive a return to, and striking that balance. Opportunity zones for me is all about striking the balance between areas that had disinvestment but deserve the right attention, and making sure that we didn't see gentrification. We believe our model has struck a great balance here in Birmingham, and we also believe our model can be a national model. That being the case, some of the good is the American Life building right in front of the, the post office downtown. I think that building should be, 98, 99% completion at this point, including the external area and the capital structure around it, sidewalks, et cetera. And so I believe that will be the first project to come online definitely by the first quarter of 2021 in completion, residents actually living there. There's some other projects in the queue, which include downtown, et cetera. But we're excited. One is because we had a great strategy that was led and executed by Josh Carpenter and his team. But we're excited because we believe we struck a balance too between supporting community and those who wanted to get some of their capital gains off the sideline.
Mr. Mayor, we received a question from a name you might recognize, Wardine Alexander. And she wanted you to talk a little bit about the projected or potential impact of the World Games on both the economy and the quality of life for our residents.
Absolutely. I think history states that any type of games any type of international games that comes into a city in America, see Atlanta, see LA, see New York, see a lot of different places. What happens in the planning stage and everyone coming together to make our city and community welcoming is a game changer. And we've seen post those games, those cities accelerate and continued growth. I think Birmingham will be no different. I like what Nick Sellers is doing. I'm not sure if he's on this call, but y'all be sure to get a message to Nick for me that tell him I said thank you for his leadership and not just his vision, but his ability to execute on that vision as it relates to the opportunity him and his team are creating for the World Game experience, not just for our residents, but for all those in America as well as internationally coming to our city. We believe the economic impact will be tremendous, will be positive. It will be a lot of revenue generated. But we also believe the experience, right? A lot of this is based on experience and what people will feel and what people will take away from being in our city will be a treat for all. And it will leave a lasting impression and legacy for our city and our community. We know that the World Games was pushed back an entire year due to the coronavirus and it being closely connected with the U.S. Olympics, which was pushed back an entire year, which made us be pushed back as well. But that's given us more time to plan from an operational standpoint, a logistics standpoint, security standpoint, fundraising standpoint, marketing, and I can go on and on. All the things that have allowed us to prepare for with additional time. So just shout out to Nick Sellers and his entire team.
Mr. Mayor, can you talk about your efforts to not just recruit businesses to the city, but also talent? How do you attract folks, who have great capacity, ideas, and energy, who want to bring something, who have great things happening, and you want to invite them to the Magic City? Tell me about your priority of recruiting those kind of folks to the city.
So here's the deal. If I'm being very candid with the folk on this call, I started with my own team. It took me a while to build the city of Birmingham's administration, like the actual people that work for me. That took up close to a whole year. And one of the reasons we have been successful is because the heavy time and investment and commitment in recruiting talent. And when you look, all of you all know Josh Carpenter, but when you look at Dr. Carpenter, there was nothing in his world that remotely had any interest in city government. I'm still making up with Ray Watts today, y'all, for the record. I stole Josh. That's something I'm proud of. Don't tell Dr. Watts. But the point is this, stealing him, recruiting him, allowed us to reimagine how we execute on economic development, looking at economic development different, looking at workforce development and workforce training differently. It allowed him to go out here and steal talent, people again, that he brought in under his team that wouldn't necessarily engage municipal government. The question was externally, how do we recruit talent? But it's the same way. It's an actual focus. We look at talent that exists. We look at our strengths, and then we go out here and try to match. I'll be straight up with y'all. People tell me no all the time, but we wade through those no's until we get to yes. And for those, whatever sector you're in, if you need an additional cheerleader, you got some potential folk out there you want, let us know. We also believe in bringing people home, i.e. see Kenneth Coleman. We know him very well. We know he's had opportunity other places. But when the opportunity came, we had to go steal Kenny because we knew the direction we wanted BBA to go. He's a great example.
Mr. Mayor, one of the things you really spent a lot of time in it, John, early on, and you continued as kind of the boards and agencies of the city of Birmingham, how you have placed a real priority on professionalizing those boards and bringing in the folks who, again, who may not have been interested in serving in that kind of public service capacity before. We talk a little bit about that approach.
Absolutely. I think the city of Birmingham should always be concerned about who sits on our boards and agencies. You know, for a long time, many of us were embarrassed about the relationship and tension, public fights, whether tangible or just verbally, or physically or verbally between mayor and council for years. It just was not healthy. No city can be progressive like that because everyone's watching. We saw it spill over into our school board for many, many years. And no school system can be successful because of that. It is not a matter of just having a mayor and a council that gets along. Mayors and councils have appointment power. So the person that's your mayor, the people that are on your council, it's important because I would tell you one of the top decisions I have is in those who I appoint. Outside of passing a budget, I dare say the second most important thing city councilors do as a body is their appointment power. And we're talking boards and agencies that go directly at the quality of life for our residents and the future and direction of our city that also has an economic impact. See the transit authority. You consider another quality of life board, waterworks. I mentioned the school board earlier. That's not an appointment necessarily, but it's important we don't sit on the sideline. You consider all the boards and agencies that exist in the city. The library board has made its way to a lot of attention lately. There's so many boards and agencies that exist in the city of Birmingham. It's extremely important that we have quality people on boards who are not looking to micromanage, who are not looking to, they don't manage, period. They understand board governance. They understand picking the right leader, the right CEO, the right president, the right executive director, and then moving out of the way, holding that person accountable, making sure that leader executes on the vision and showing support that way. If we do this, if we get the right people on our boards and agencies, the accelerated growth you all have seen in Birmingham in 18 and 19 that took a pause in 20 because of COVID, it would move even faster because you have all the people in position that understand their role. That being said, if you all have any interest in our boards and agencies, please let us know. If you have any good quality people in mind who live in our city, please let us know.
I have one last question, but real quick, you mentioned kind of the relationship with the council, and Ms. Alexander, Council Alexander, the President Pro Tem, was on there. Can you just one quick minute for folks to understand kind of how intentional you are about that relationship?
Yeah, well, first of all, Wardine Alexander is my friend. And I say that because I mean it. It's not just a matter of her position as a city councilor, my position as mayor. We trust each other. We can disagree with each other, but it's still cool. I'm not sure what world we live in 2020 where people, just because they disagree, have to fight or stop talking to each other or start a civil war or worse, a Cold War where they don't talk to each other. I think for us, definitely for me, I'm extremely intentional about reaching out to the council. And it's not just when I want something, right? i.e. please vote on what I'm recommending. It's more importantly that I say, hey, how can I help you? Do you need anything? How are things in your district? Anything you need the team to move on? So it's just a mutual understanding, it's a mutual benefit, and it's mutual service to the residents we serve.
And
by the way,
sorry.
A boring mayor and council means their city's moving.
You know, no, it's not great if council meetings must see TV, right?
Not at all.
Last thing, and I'm gonna I want if you'll hang on for a second, because the new top guy at the BBA wants to say something to you as well before we sign off. But talk about what neighborhood revitalization means to you, because that's what you've talked about ad nauseum since I've known you. So if you'll wrap us up with that.
Yeah. So Mr. CEO has heard me say this before, but I go right at the heart of where a mother or a grandmother lives. And she walks out to her front porch, and to the right of her, there's a dilapidated house or home that's been there blighted for 5, 6, 7 years. To the left of her, there's an overgrown lot. The sidewalk in front of her home, where she wants her child or grandchild to be able to ride her bike, the sidewalk is not bikeable. She pulls out of her driveway, but the street hasn't been paved in years, and she wants to walk her child or grandchild down to the neighborhood park, but it hasn't had the right investments in adequate playground equipment or up-to-date playground equipment in years. It's getting dark and it's time to come home, but the street lights don't work. And she wants to feed her child or grandchild, but she realizes, or she remembers, they stay in a food desert. And from time to time, unfortunately, they have to drop to the ground because they hear gunshots. Neighborhood revitalization, to me, is changing all of those things and removing those things to make it better from a place standpoint. And I'll talk about person in a minute. Place is removing that blighted structure, which we've done over the last 3 years. We've torn down over 1,000 blighted structures in our city. That overgrown lot, we want to get out of the grass cutting business and go vertical with single family homes. That's affordable and market rate throughout our city. We've had a 5-year sidewalk plan. We've had a 5-year paving plan, and we're making our sidewalks walkable and paving our streets. We continue to make the necessary investments in our neighborhood parks, and we broke ground and announced the 117th park via Green Space last year with One Pratt Park. Our partnership with Alabama Power has been amazing, related to LED lights and making some of these neighborhoods safer with lighting, as well as we've made serious investments in fighting food deserts, loosening some of our laws around our healthy food ordinance, et cetera. And we continue to address crime. We're glad to say every crime category has decreased with one exception, and that is homicides. That still bothers us on a daily basis. They're not homicides daily, but daily we're trying to figure out how to decrease violent crime in our city. If we are successful at all of those things, then that is neighborhood revitalization, focusing on where our residents live. But it's also, when you think about the Birmingham Promise, that same child or grandchild has the opportunity to be gainfully employed. They have an opportunity as a first generation young person to go to college. So it's not just about place, it's about people as well.
Mr. Mayor, we appreciate your time. I'm gonna wrap you up because I know your schedule and the people around you are gonna be yelling at me about making you late for your next meeting. But real quick, the CEO and president of the Birmingham Business Alliance, Ken Coleman. Ken, good morning.
Good morning, Kelvin. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for that compelling, enlightening, and honestly motivating conversation with our Governmental Affairs Committee.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned me coming back to Birmingham, and a big part of what I was most excited about in coming back is to serve with you and partner with you in your leadership. We think Birmingham is uniquely positioned heading forward to really capitalize on this 21st century economy, as you mentioned. In fact, the Brookings Institute in their Metro Recovery Index looked at 53 of the largest metro areas across the country and how they both responded to the pandemic and the economic indicators that really drive results. And really excited to say Birmingham was ranked 7th among those 53 communities. Big part of that, Mayor, obviously, was your leadership with Birmingham Strong and the partnerships that you've been able to build with the business community and our regional partners in this. So we thank you for that. We look forward to continuing to partner with you and strengthening that partnership, Mr. Mayor, with helping to grow and attract jobs, helping to attract and train our workforce, helping to create a more inclusive economy, and really working to put Birmingham on the world stage. As you know, we continue to work and develop our new 4-year plan that will have all of those components in it as well, and creating that even closer partnership with the city. So we thank you for that. Kelvin, thank you for your leadership with the Governmental Affairs Committee. We thank you for working to put together our both state and federal agenda that'll go before our board in December. I want to thank all the members on this call as well for your work there. A big part of our role at BBA is to help make sure we are working with our partners to create a business environment that is favorable for business growth and expansion. So we thank you for your time today. We appreciate you joining Mr. Mayor for our governmental affairs discussion. And Kelvin, either I'll turn it over back to you or we'll call it adjourned.
Well, I was going to say we'll turn it over to Daryl, but I don't know where he is. Hopefully we lost him. I don't know if Mr. Perkins is around or not. Daryl, are you there? Maybe we got lucky.
Daryl's always around, even if he's any longer on the Zoom call.
We thanks everybody. You'll be hearing from Emily Lawrence here very soon about our next upcoming meeting. I want to thank Ryan Boswell over at BBA for running the show behind the scenes today. And with that, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate you. And thank you, Ken, for jumping on to say hello to us as well. And thanks to everybody. This is the largest attended call we've had of the year. So thanks, everyone. And we'll be in touch very soon.
Thank y'all.